You're listening to Blends and Botanics in Conversation. This episode of Blends and Botanics in Conversation is brought to you by the Clearer Water Group, by the 47-0 timepiece Annecy, France. This is Blends and Botanics in Conversation. Well, I can't believe tonight that we're actually in conversation with Miss Sarah Mc Avinchey from Tipperary Boutique Distillery, and of course Chef Derek Marsden, who is thank you. You're executive chef of the Murray Pub Group. Right. So I'm going to start with you, Sarah, if I may. Mm-hmm. So what I find fascinating about you, Sarah, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but social policy graduate.
Yes.
To craft Irish spirits. How did that happen? What was the motivation?
So the sociology and social policy degree was the decision making of a 17-year-old that had no idea what she wanted to do. I was able to learn how the world works and all of these different things, but also I was able to do modules in business, economics, law, and business I absolutely loved doing. And ultimately then I took after my mum, Brona, and followed her footsteps. She's an entrepreneur, businesswoman, extraordinaire. So realistically, I think if in hindsight's a great thing, I was always going to be in kind of sales, business, entrepreneurial roles. But I probably didn't want to admit how alike to my mum I was at the age of 17.
And I'll just stop you there because just for our listeners or for our viewers, Brona Conlon, of course, is the infamous Brona Conlon from the Stoke Distillery, another award-winning distillery who, yes, as you say, has been a serial entrepreneur over the years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the main... She was influencing you and you didn't realise you were being influenced, I guess.
Yes, or I didn't want to admit that I realised it, you know. I take after her in more ways than one, and now I'm in my early 30s and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be more like her, and she does certain things and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. But when I was 17, I was like, sociology and social policy, I'm going to save the world. Do
you think you bring that into what you're currently doing any way?
I think I bring the level of... fairness and education that I learned there.
Yeah. And responsibility.
Social responsibility is a huge part of everything that I do, and always trying to give back, always trying to help through business ways, through, entrepreneurial manners, and then also just personally as well. So it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of what was going on around me. And, again, back then it wasn't that you had 500 notifications on your phone every day with what was going on in the world. You did have to, look for it a little bit more. But I definitely have brought it with me and things that I learned there with me. But
so jumping over to Derek, I love beginnings, and I'm thinking about 14-year-old Derek that we read about in Blends and Botanics. What was that drive? This was in your family, I guess. So, but what was the motive? What was going through 14-year-old Derek's mind? And can I just ask, because I know you have a 9-year-old?
I do,
Yeah. Would you be encouraging your 9-year-old to go in the same direction?
I think a lot of people in hospitality have that opinion that their kids wouldn't like to go into it. But I think there's a huge amount that you can get from hospitality. Like, it's given me a fantastic life.
Sure.
You can travel the world with it. Like, it's one of those things. It's just so approachable and it's just so many different levels. I started out, I just fell in love with just the rhythm, the energy of a kitchen. I was 14, my mother was a chef, my uncle was a chef, very close to my uncle, and just fell in love with it, just a little bit of freedom at that age, I suppose. And I think it's easy to fall in love with that kind of first initial job that you have, that, it's you have that bit of freedom and you're earning some money, and, it's you just take that first step away from your parents at that age where a little bit more real world. But I just always loved it, and just, like I say, that big energy, lots of big personalities, lots of different things kind of going on. I just, from an early age, I just loved it. I loved the graft, I loved the hard work.
But it has that reputation for that intensity.
Yeah, and I just think it's one of those, I think like anything in life, the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But I think exceptionally so in hospitality and in cooking,
Would you say you were mentored?
Absolutely, yeah.
You went and you did your leaving?
I was very lucky. I had some fantastic head chefs from a very young age. But I was always looking for that next thing. Like, I was never satisfied with just... Like, I remember working on the veg section in a fine dining Italian restaurant, and it was just basic 3 vegetables in a bowl. Every table got, like, real old school kind of way of kind of cooking. But I was always like, what can we do next? How can we, and it's just carrots. We would do like one of the chefs had shown me how to make a honey sauce to go over the carrots, or a cheese sauce to go over the broccoli, and it was always just, well, what else can we do? And It's something that I kind of firmly believe, that I'm constantly talking to my own chefs about, that it's so important to not focus on recipes, focus on technique, because technique is a million more times better than just learning a recipe. Like, you learn how to make a mayonnaise, you can make a million mayonnaises, versus...
I'm sure your mother must have loved you coming home with, all these suggestions.
Yeah. She had done her time in juries back
Oh, she was.
So she was a head chef. She was a head chef at the Coffee Dock and Juries back at a Kish Fish restaurant, and so she spent a lot of time back there. It was a 5-star hotel back then as well, and different level of training as well back then.
Oh my gosh!
I was lucky enough that I was always enthusiastic, and I think when I was young, at the age of 14, I was so enthusiastic about it that my first job, there was 15 chefs in the kitchen, and I was very lucky that they were so keen to kind of give back to me, and they were calling me across and saying, look, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or so I was very lucky in that regard. And that I saw the benefit from that from a very early age, that the more I kind of put into this, the more I kind of got out of it. And I recognised that from very early on. It's just been my opinion since, but
Lovely.
And I just I went to logistics in college for 3 days. And I was just like, this is not for me. Like, my father was kind of like, don't. And he was kind of saying, just try something else, because you've kind of just fallen in love with this because it's your first job and your first kind of bit of freedom, and
I love it.
But I did that. I worked in Dunn's briefly as well, stacking shelves. Just not for
so
me.
you were never sort of idle, as they say. You were out and you were doing it.
I just loved it, and I was 16. I was working in 2 jobs when I was still in school. I was working for my mother and I was working for my uncle. And I used to finish one at 5 o'clock and go up to the other one, and vice versa. And
But I find, don't you recognise that people, young people that seem very experienced, they might be 26 and you're sort of saying, how are they so experienced? And you'll usually find that at 14, at 16, you couldn't keep them out of what they were doing. Just like yourself, you were picking it up along the way from your mum, what she was up to. You were watching and you were learning and what have you. Absolutely. But just to bring it over to the magazine again, and over to the article that you have included in this edition of Blends Botanics, which I love, by the way, single malt whiskey, not just for the Scottish, which I think is great. So you covered 3, your own Tipperary homegrown, Dingle Core, isn't it, and Copeland 25.1. To me, that's sort of reading, if you'll excuse the pun, like a certain positioning in the market at the moment. Is it true that single malt is positioning itself in a very kind of premium position?
Single malt as a category is a little bit more premium, just in terms of the way it's produced. So that malted barley does cost a little bit more than unmalted barley. The processes also, and then when it comes to the aging, so anyone who works in whiskey, drinks whiskey, enjoys whiskey, knows that the processes of either malting, mashing, fermenting, and distilling can vary, but distillery to distillery. But really, it's like making a cake. You have the same kind of more or less the same steps with someone's granny might throw in a bit of orange zest or whatever, but that's, the cake is going to roughly end up being the same. But it's how you decorate the cake at the end. It's how you age the whiskey at the end. It's about the casks. So, I mean, in terms of single malt, yes, it is a slightly more premium in terms of the pricing, but you'll find that there's very few distilleries that will invest in a single malt whiskey without investing in a beautiful cask to put it in, because it is so special.
It is, Do Irish people drink? We're known for our blended, aren't we? Our love of blended. Yeah. Are we growing a bit of an appetite for single malt?
Absolutely. I think, globally, people think single malt and they think Scotch. But Scotch, especially in emerging markets for Irish whiskey, Scotch has been there first. Yeah. So a lot of my priorities are working in Asian markets at the moment, and everywhere I go, they're comparing it to, okay, well, what's your whiskey like compared to Macallan or compared to Johnny Walker, compared to whatever.
Yeah.
And I always say it's better, but
I love it.
But Irish, we love a blended whiskey, but we really prioritize pot still whiskey as well, which we do. Yeah, I love pot still whiskey, which we do very well here in Ireland also. So, but there's a few distilleries doing really good single malts, and I picked those ones.
Yeah, I'm interested to know. Maybe you could just give us. I don't want to put you on the spot, but just the little subtle difference between the 3.
Yeah, well, I picked Tipperary because I might lose my job if I didn't. But no, we've a brand new release. It's just won gold in the Irish Whiskey Masters.
Congratulations!
And that's it's beautiful. It's an 8-year-old whiskey. It's our homegrown barley. So my boss Jennifer and her husband, they have their own farm and grow the barley.
Really stand
We're grain
over
to
that,
glass.
can't you?
Absolutely. our solar panels are working overtime. It's amazing. Such a sustainable enterprise. So it's our homegrown barley and aged for 7.5 years in Rioja casks, which isn't that common in Irish whiskey. It has become a little bit more common, but we were one of the first ones to do it years ago, and then finished in a sherry cask, which very classic for a whiskey, but with the redness of the berries of the Rioja and then adding it to the sherry, it is just luxury in a bottle.
That's a lovely little investment, isn't it, for anybody coming up to
it's
Christmas?
fabulous. And as I said, I work with
Yeah,
Tipperary,
yeah.
so I had to champion one of our single malts because we do specialise in single malts.
Yes.
But honestly, this one in particular, it's one
It's
of my
special.
absolute favourites.
Oh my
I
goodness,
actually bought a
love.
bottle for my dad to give it to him for a present, and he's like, "Oh, got a discount, did you?" And I said, "It's none of your business." And then the other two, so Dingle, I personally feel that as a distillery and as an enterprise, they were one of the first craft distilleries in Ireland when the gin boom and the craft distillery kind of thing happened 10, 11 years ago. And I've always really admired what they do and really admired how they didn't have this huge, massive expansion where everything got really big and really commercial all in one go. They really stuck to their roots, and they have some beautiful whiskies. So I really wanted to choose their from
Celebrate
their core
that,
range,
yeah.
and
It's
celebrate
amazing what
them.
they've seen they've done as well over the years. Like their first couple of
Unbelievable.
whiskies, like it was, I think they got support from the market because it was the first kind of new distillery that opened for a while. But the whiskey wasn't great. It was very young, and it was
young, yeah,
But
yeah.
some of their whiskies now are just absolutely stunning. Like,
Unbelievable.
they're really,
Yeah.
really good. Like really good. Yeah.
Really nice,
I was
really
going to
nice.
say, like a lot of labels, if you give them time,
It just takes time,
and if
yeah,
they can
yeah.
keep going,
And I think, like I say, it's
they
great
really
that they have that
evolve.
support from the Irish market overall.
Yeah.
And they released their gin and their vodka as well, which is lovely. It's really
Yeah.
nice. Their gin is lovely.
yeah.
But it was like I remember trying one of their first whiskies early days, and I'm like, oh, that's a bit
I know.
harsh, but at the
know.
same time, you do want to support an Irish
Yeah.
brand, and it was something new and different, and
Yeah.
moving away. Like my favorite whiskey is Redbreast 12. Like I think it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
stunning,
it's a bit of a
consistent.
classic, isn't it?
is,
Yeah.
But to support a kind of small independent kind of business like that,
so important,
and just to see
yeah.
what the whiskies they produce now, like
Yeah.
And how it's
some of the-
matured
yeah,
more
it's
ways than one,
stunning,
yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
stunning. Like.
Yeah.
And then the third with
Copeland,
Copeland.
yeah.
Now
So-
tell me about that.
I went with Copeland. So Copeland, again, as a distillery, I really admire what they do. So they're based in Northern Ireland, and they, again, champion that small business, craft. And I find even on, if I see them on social media and they post about a new market they've just entered or a big sale they've gotten, I'm like cheering them on. Like they're just one of those ones that I'm like, I love when they get it right, and I love when they do it.
They're very stylish. They're really stylish. Yeah,
very much so. And any of their products I've tasted over the years, because gin is my background, and I love everything that they've done. And so when I was having a look at the three that I would do a comparison with,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I really admire them, so I want to show that I admire them and show off the respect that
That's
I have
a
for them.
lovely shout out, yeah.
But also geographically, you got to move it away from Munster. We were a bit too Munster heavy now, so I wanted to branch out, cross the border a little bit, see what we're dealing with over there. So,
well, it's been well received, so congratulations. We got
Brilliant,
great
I'm
feedback
delighted.
on the magazine. But just on that note, Derek, whiskey food pairings. Any suggestions? Do you want to talk about?
I think there's an element of spirits in general or alcohol in general that you can pair with food that go very, very well. And like we did a really nice dish in Lundyfoot's actually recently where we were a whiskey glazed beef rib. So very simple. It was on a little snack menu we did. There was just 2 or 3 little small ribs on a plate.
Yeah.
We finished it with some toasted nuts. Fantastic.
Tasty.
Yeah, really, really good,
Tasty, yeah. No,
The smokiness of I'm not a huge fan of smoky whiskey. I don't like the Scotch. I don't like the kind of stereotypical kind of. I remember meeting a Scottish guy before talking about whiskey.
now when you say smoky, are we talking peated? Is
Yeah,
it?
peated smoky
okay,
whiskey.
Yeah,
And I remember him saying to me, we were kind of debating like Irish whiskey's better, Scotch is better, and
Yeah.
he said, "You can't make whiskey at all, Irish people." And he said, "Sure, you can't even spell it." I had a good laugh at that.
I love it.
And I was like, well, it's drinking whiskey sometimes from Scotland. It's like drinking barbecue sauce, like it's just
Yeah,
that overly smoked kind of like. I look at the sweetness. I like the classic vanilla sweet sugary
Yeah.
kind of whiskey, like
Yeah.
smooth drinking. Other whiskey pairings, desserts as well. There's some whiskeys that you like that would go so well with dessert. And I'm looking at this one. I know it's not a whiskey; it's brandy. But
Yeah.
spirits being introduced into more desserts, I think, is something that's it's just a natural.
Yeah,
They
it makes
go quite
sense,
well
doesn't it?
together, like,
Really,
yeah.
especially actually around Christmas, you kind of
You
don't
do, you have that
yeah.
naturally, and obviously there's always been element of kind of wine, with French cooking, and but there's I saw recently someone doing, where was it? I think it was somewhere in Dublin, but they had a beer and wine reduction in their whatever sauce they'd put on. Like, and we have classic beef and Guinness. It's all over. It's all over Ireland. We're well known for it as well.
Yeah.
But it's there's I think there's definitely an element that you can introduce more of those flavor profiles to go so well with, and
Yeah,
I think
they really
as
do.
well, whiskey as a whole it pairs quite well with a lot of different food.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's also taken very seriously when you see whiskey incorporated
Yeah.
into, a steak or whatever. It's,
I think so, and I think there's an element there for a long time, and even still now, whiskey was seen as just an after dinner kind of, like a sipper sitting by the fire, which I love as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's something you can introduce into a savoury dish, or a dessert, or it's not just an end of a meal as such. What else?
Oh, cheese.
Cheese,
I would
absolutely.
do
Yeah.
anything for cheese.
Cheese, cheese and whiskey, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have that sweetness, even that touch, even with I think with a Scotch, like a smoky element with the cheese works really, really well. And then obviously, I think pork naturally lends itself quite well to whiskey. That kind of
does,
flavor
yeah.
profile.
I agree.
Like that apple pork caramelized. It just works really, really well.
And it just gives you an excuse, doesn't it, to kind of try a different whiskey with a different,
It's like Sarah was saying there's so many whiskies now that they're finished in different casks.
Yes.
So you can introduce those different elements into the dish. If you had a whiskey finish in a red wine cask or a white wine cask or a sweet
really
wine,
mix it up, can't you?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Sarah, can I get a little bit serious with you now? We've been keeping it light, but I just wanted to talk about concerns, really, with currently, within the industry, there are a few concerns. What concern about Irish whiskey? What concerns would you? I don't want to make it negative, but what would be your biggest concern with Irish whiskey at the moment in terms of export, for example?
I think the number one double T trumps tariffs is the ultimate concern for a lot of Irish distilleries and Irish brands. I think across the board in the industry, drinks, hospitality, everything, life is tough right now. Cost of living is tough.
Do you ever remember it being as tough? Like you enter the business?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember being this tough because costs are exponentially higher now than they were pre-COVID. It's insane, the difference. Even the cost of a glass bottle, which, you could have gotten before for 40 cents, you're now getting it for 120, and that doesn't seem, if people think, a €30, €40, €50 bottle, 80-cent glass, but it's not just that price difference, it's everything else around it that has increased as well.
The price of every single thing, like
Every
a napkin,
single thing.
every single thing has gone up massively as well.
And all that means is that the margins are smaller and smaller and smaller because small businesses, we know we can't just keep hiking our prices up.
Yeah, there's a point where you have to stop.
There's a point when you have to stop because if our costs go up and our prices go up, eventually our customers will go, all right, cool, yeah, back to Jameson I go, or back to, Gordon's or whatever it is I go.
So where's the double T sent you? What market are you, veering towards at the moment? I presume Asia.
Many Asian markets, yes. So Scotch whiskey is definitely has been the forefront in a lot of Asian markets up until now, up until the last couple of years. But Irish whiskey is actually the fastest growing spirit in that area, which is super exciting. It's amazing to see.
That's a bit of hope, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not all negative. The home market is tough. The home market is the national market is tough.
This is it. Yeah,
We are one of the highest alcohol taxes in Europe. We're third highest
crazy,
in Europe. It's insane. There's no breaks for whiskey, gin, vodka producers or sellers here. Absolutely none. And the competition is huge.
Yeah.
But, we'll always take a bit of friendly competition if we can afford to be in, afford to be in the mix, but we just can't. So it's about Asia for us at the moment. I'm really focusing on China. China's not one market. China is dozens and dozens of markets. But that's one that I'm really looking at the moment. We are exporting to Singapore, Japan, Korea. So a lot of those are, they're not necessarily the biggest orders in the world, but they're foot in the door.
Yeah.
Foot in the door. And that's all you want.
Yeah.
In any lease of life, in any job or in any industry, foot in the door is a positive start. So that's what we're doing.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
And
just time the product speaks for itself then as well. I think if you get a good product and it just starts to
get the
build
momentum.
momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. Bringing it over to yourself, Derek, we've just had the budget. That will bring us into, it has relaxed, it has reduced VAT and hospitality. So I've been looking forward to actually speaking to you about this because I know you have some great views on your inside track. Where do you think we're going to find this reduction? Is it going to be at our bill at the end of the night when we have our meal, or are they going to put it back into employment? Where are we going to see the reduction?
The VAT cuts is definitely a relief, and it's a little bit of breathing room for people, but it's just one small step. Like there's just it's not going to be an awful lot for an awful lot of places as well. Unfortunately, right now you have an awful lot of small independent businesses who are 30, 40, 50 grand in debt. So that VAT reduction is going to do nothing for them next year in July. So unfortunately, it's not going to help an awful lot of small guys who are under pressure right now. But it's a massive relief, you know, and it's not a reduction of VAT. This is the new VAT rate that they're saying. So it's not that this is just for 3 years or 5 years. So they're saying that this is the new.
They're going to keep it at this.
This is going to be the new VAT rate.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly tight. Like the margins of food are so tight, and people think they go out somewhere and they see a burger for €20 and say, well, I can go to Tesco's, I can buy mince for this, and I can buy a burger bun for us. But what goes into getting that on a plate is incredible. Like,
I know.
And it's that getting it on a plate consistently like that. You say, okay, well, there's portion control, there's the burger, the cheese, the lettuce, the tomato, the sauce, the relish, the bun, the fries, the napkin. Someone has to make it, someone has to wash it, the equipment, like everything that goes with it. And in Ireland in general, just the cost of doing business is very
bricks
high.
and mortar. Do you think that's why this sort of this occurrence of street food is becoming culturally well? I mean, it's fantastic when you say culture. You have all sorts of food which is popping up, which I absolutely adore. But do you think that it's? I mean, the reality of bricks and mortar now is
it's difficult for you to take on a project now that's like a shell unit, and you're putting 200 grand into it to get a restaurant up and running or a cafe or anything. It's a lot of money to put it and make an investment in something to get your money out of it, like, you know, and
sure, or just to keep it going.
And to keep it going. That's why an awful lot of small business operators, they're just as razor tight the margins as it is, like, you know, and people think they're going out somewhere and it's, you know, it's €4 for a coffee or $4.50 for a coffee, and people think it's outrageous, but to produce that and get it out, it's really not. And after you pay the VAT on it, and after you pay everything else, like, there's not a huge level of profit in it. Like, I know some operators are working off at 5% net profit, like, you know, and it's a lot of work to go into to get 5% profit out of something, you know, like, I mean.
And then you got people who are just breaking even, and they're thanking God that they're breaking even, you know.
And a lot of small independent people, they just end up buying themselves a job, and they're just kind of self-employed.
There's really not enough, is there?
No, and
you know, in terms of support.
And it's
there's
like,
really not enough.
Especially the smaller guys that, like, they just don't have a huge amount of support there to kind of push them on, and it's not a massive incentive to be a small business owner in Ireland, you know.
In any industry.
Yeah, in any industry, like, but like the minimum wage is going up, and I think that's right. I think it should go up, but that has to factor on everything else as well. Like, I mean, minimum wage was $9.50, I think, a couple of years ago, and it's going to be 11.
How is that translating? Actually, sorry to interrupt you. For staff, I mean, is tipping? Is tipping? I mean, in Ireland, we're not known for tipping, but I think we've actually got that in place now, don't we? That's firmly in place in all restaurants with all employers, that there's a certain, you know, staff will get a tip. Is that alive and well? Is that
absolutely? Yeah, any of the groups, any of the groups I work with, or any venues I've ever worked in, the staff get 100% of the tip. Like,
that's great.
But it's what I mean is, if you were paying someone $9.50 an hour a couple of years ago to do an entry level job, and now you're paying them $14.20, I think it's going to be in January, or $14.15 in January. It's a huge increase, you know, percentage wise. If you just think about percentage wise, you know, and rightly so to a degree. I think minimum wage was too low, like, but at the same time, it's the knock-on effect that your burger is going to be more expensive, your pint of beer is going to be more expensive, you know, and everything else that goes with it, like, you know. So I think people have this comparison. Like, I think when they go into a bar and they see a bottle of Heineken for €6 and go, it's €1 on the off license, I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot to it.
I know,
you know, it's not like for like, you know, and
and
I think there's an Irish. I think Irish people have a natural, hospitable thing where if you invited someone to your home, you'd be like, can I get you something to eat? Can I get you something to drink? Sit down there. Would you have a cup of tea? Would you have a beer? And it's just this natural thing that people do. And when people go into a business then and they're kind of paying this kind of money and they're leaving without anything tangible, like, they're not going home with anything. They're paying for an experience.
So the experience, therefore, it's very important. It's
absolutely,
the utmost importance, really.
So when you leave, then you go, I've nothing. I've spent £200. I went out, me and my wife or a friend, and we had a meal and a few drinks, and it's cost £200. It's a lot of money, and it is, you know, it's a lot of money, like, you know. But to get all that stuff and get it right and consistent and everything else, like, it's difficult, you know. It's I think a lot of people just don't see that, like, you know. It's just they see the price of something and they're comparing it to, well, it's €15 for fish and chips, you know, and then takeaway chipper, like, you know, it's crazy, but it is what it is, you know.
But that's the same thing, you know, as I was saying about the price of the base product going up, the glass, the cork, the liquid, the cask, everything has gone up, the label. That knock-on effect means that everything you're buying, when you're going to the supermarket and getting your mince and your cheese and everything, that is going to cost you 20 quid to get a burger then at the end of the day. You know, across the board, life is just so expensive right now. And as much as people want a cheaper night out with wine and steak, or a cheaper night in with a couple of beers and a pizza, whatever that might be, you know, yes, the minimum wage had to go up to meet that. And, you know, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But no one's able to comfortably, you know, afford all of this right now, either the consumer or the provider, especially the small businesses. You know,
you have to be offering people a good experience when they come out, and you have to. I say this to the guys all the time: like, you have to give people a reason to come back. So, like, kind of a rule I have in cooking is you shouldn't be cooking something that someone can just make on themselves. So you shouldn't be just buying something in, taking out a pack, and serving it.
In a different way. I think it's
I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. So everything we do in work, like it's we try to enhance everything we do. Like, you know, we have a basic burger, but we make our own pickles. You know, we use a potato bun. We make our own tomato and chili relish. We make our own burger sauce. All those extra steps that obviously, you know, technically anyone could do it at home, but no one's going to go to the hassle of doing it. But if you're just taking something out of a pack, the likes of a lot of suppliers that they're able to provide things that are literally just ready made, you know, it feels to me unfair or something, you know, like it's something that just, it's not right. It just doesn't sit right to me.
Well, that's going to translate for sure. So talking about experiences, Derek, you have agreed to experience some apple brandy tonight.
Fantastic, yeah.
it's
not a bad position to be in.
I'm just looking here. There is one glass for tasting. My chopped liver.
We should have got a pint glass.
Well, we have one fancy glass, but we do have some other glasses. So, Sarah, would you like to pour?
I would,
give us a little. Let me see. Give us a little rundown on the 80.
This is the 80 Irish apple brandy. Irish apple brandy has really, as a category, really, you know, grown in the last couple of years. And this particular drink itself is called the 80 because there are 80 apples in every bottle. And those apples are from Contrast's farm. It's called the Apple Farm in Tipperary, across the road from our distillery, more or less, as the crow flies across the road. So basically, Con grows, harvests his apples and makes cider out of them. And then we hightail it up to the distillery and distill that cider, and then we age it for 3 years in Oloroso sherry casks. Wow, yeah. So
that's a great collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Derek.
It's a delight. It's
let's
Christmas,
hear you.
It's everything.
Let's have a little. What's on the nose, as they say to start? Would you say?
Nose straight away, you get that baked apple and cherry kind of flavour to it. Caramelised flavour is the bang of caramelised. Nut as well, actually, quite nutty.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Kind of marzipan, almost almond kind of.
I get the marzipan, really. Yeah, I really, really do. I love this one. This is one of those drinks that, again, kind of like, you know, gin 10 years ago. It's an older sort of drink. It's, you know, you never sit there and go, I'd love a brandy right now. But
making a bit of a surgeon though, yeah. But
exactly.
The smell is fantastic. It's quite layered, slightly spiced. Hint of orange.
I'm feeling left out here. Is that an empty glass over there?
No, it's not.
No, let me drink this back really quickly. I'm going to get some of this apple brandy.
Get a bit into you.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
When would you be recommending this now? If you had a dinner party,
this does taste like an after dinner.
Is it an after dinner?
Yeah.
Well, you'd make a fantastic cocktail as well, like an old fashioned.
It does. We've a couple of cocktails that we made. A sour. We made a really good one. That really kind of zingy, but I think just with the sweetness of it. It's dessert, it's after dinner, it's just, you know, I like it usually with like a wee cube of ice or something nice and cold, but I've done it in a little coffee, in a little
I love it.
little French coffee, a bit of cream on top. Very nice because, again, the apple, the sweetness really comes through, but...
Okay, here goes.
It seems to sit in between that kind of brandy and whiskey kind of...
Yes.
You know, it's along those same lines.
Ooh.
Yeah, marzipan, toffee, caramel...
Hello, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Actually, talking about categories, I attended the Apple Brandy Renaissance in Jamison. Thank you very much for your invitation. And it was at that I learned that in terms of category certification, You are on the road. When I say you, the Apple Brandy makers of Ireland are on the road to have this certified in the same way that Irish whiskey is. What stage is that at now, Sarah?
So it's not across the line just yet. So the geographical indicator is what it's called, and it's what Irish whiskey has. Scotch has it as well. Bourbon has it, for example, and it basically means that there are certain rules that you have to follow to produce a drink in that category.
Yeah.
So, for example, Irish whiskey, it has to be aged for 3 years and a day. It has to be produced and aged in Ireland. It has to be at least 40%. All of these kind of things, and then it comes down to like label specifications and stuff like that. And there are certain rules that you have to abide by.
So that's where we're at with that.
So it hasn't crossed the line just yet. It hasn't been officially approved.
That's good.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Though, if you get it across that line, though, right?
I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a huge number of producers of it at the moment.
Okay.
And we're all kind of working in tandem together and do a lot, do a lot of communication with each other and making sure everything's all okay. We did the Renaissance event,
Fabulous
kind of launched together.
How is it being accepted? Are you getting the figures on it, on the digits on it?
Yeah,
Are people buying it?
as at a head of sales for Tipperary, it's my job to make sure this is going and being pushed. And now that we're coming into kind of autumnal winter months,
I was going to say this is
where
it's time.
This is where I'm going to shine. I was sitting in May going, apple brandy, anyone? And people were going, nah, not really.
It's not a summery drink.
No, it's not. I made it a summery drink in my house, but no one else seems to pick up on it.
Oh no, you can feel just a little bit. I can feel the warmth of that.
Really,
really.
it's not syrupy either. Sometimes you get these things and they're quite syrupy and it's a nice clean, bright kind of finish to it.
Yes, it really is.
It's actually easy to drink.
Yes.
You can sit by the fire. You can imagine that.
Yeah, Guinness and that by the fire.
Unbelievable. Some cheese, like I'll never let the cheese go. Always a bit of cheese.
Again, bit of cheese. What kind of cheese would you recommend with that, Derek?
I think Goubien actually would be beautiful with that.
Oh, hello. Lovely.
Yes.
I'm loving
Goubien
it.
would be really, or a nice hard cheddar.
Yes,
Classic,
why
simple
not?
kind of,
Yeah.
Apple tart tatin is what kind of jumps out at you, or that kind of a play on Calvados brandy, kind of, a Calvados kind of cream sauce. Go quite well as well with that kind of pork, apple, Calvados kind of.
Yes,
definitely.
You're giving me ideas here.
Yeah.
Of course, the big question is who is actually going to go home with this apple brandy tonight? That's where I'm at. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, you know what? Actually, I had there recently.
Unless we just stay and drink it.
Yeah, just stay here and finish it. Kish Fish recently. I tried their. They have a Guinness smoked salmon product they released there recently. Really, really good. And I'd say that was actually quite nice if you paired that up. That Guinness smoked salmon with some of this would be a nice pairing, all right.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm
We'd see this on a menu.
I actually added it to a dressing. For a salad, recently enough, because I love a lemon dressing, a bit of zest. But exactly, and a bit of
apple brandy healthy.
Exactly.
Putting
on a bit. If I put it on spinach leaves, it counts, doesn't it? So it had like this sweetness to it. It was lovely.
Oh, lovely.
But then I couldn't drive after lunch, so I was like,
I know.
What did you have for lunch? Half a bottle of brandy.
Half a bottle of brandy, a couple of leaves.
Well, I'm delighted that we got to taste this, and in fact, I've been looking forward to it. All day, so I finally. Unfortunately, I can't have too much more now because I'm driving tonight. But I enjoyed that very much. I'm just going to sort of finish off now with predictions from you both, Derek. Could we start with you? Have you any predictions for hospitality 2026, especially on the back of that budget?
Yeah, I think you're going to see more and more of these kind of small, focused kind of places. I think people that do something and do it just really well. I think that works, and I think people really, really enjoy that. Obviously, we've always had that. You have Bunsen in town who do a fantastic burger, or Dash Burger, same thing. Like they just do something small but do it really well. Those focused concepts, I think, will work, and I think you're kind of starting to see it a little bit in London. And generally speaking, we're a couple of years behind the UK or behind London, in the food scene.
And drinks,
And drinks as well, I think generally, and hospitality, we're always a couple of years behind London. And there's more of that kind of popping up now, a place where you can go, you just go there for dumplings, you just go there for a burger, you just go there for sushi or whatever. I think people want to see that consistency as well. It's easier to maintain that consistency when you have something that you just do something and you do it really well.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge, like if I go somewhere and I'm reading the menu and it's
and they give
you're
you a
scrolling
book.
through it and like this straight away I'm just like, this is going to be a bad experience. Yeah, exactly, and it's like you've got 12 salads here, like not that I'm ordering a salad, like, but
yes,
only if it is brandy in it.
Well, a brandy salad maybe, but you've got 14 different starters and you've got 7 different types. You've got 7 different steaks and you've got it just doesn't read well, like and whereas a more condensed kind of focused concept, I think, is something you're going to see more of popping up around. I think people are just tired of those big huge menus. I think they're dying out anyway. Like, and I think even tasting menus and stuff are kind of. I think that the top guys will always do that at the highest level. Like, but there's a stage there where I think people are going less and less for that 2 and 3 course when they go out. Anyway, I think people want to go out and eat and enjoy an experience on a outside, but it's not 3-course meal or it is. It's a small plates kind of concept where you're having, which I love. I love eating that kind of stuff.
Picky bits.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And can I just? There's one question that I haven't written down, but I did want to ask you in terms of predictions. The under 30s, do you have any predictions about what they're going to be eating and drinking? I've heard they're going to be certainly making cocktails a lot smaller. They want a few, but smaller.
Yeah, I think there's also an emphasis on quality there as well. I think when I was 20, in my early 20s, you're kind of finishing work and you were going and drinking. There was 6 bottles of beer for a $5 in some place. So you're like, whatever's there, and you're drinking. God only knows what you're drinking at the end of the night. Like it was supposed to be vodka and Red Bull, but it was Shark and something, or whatever kind of thing. There's definitely a focus on quality now more so than quantity.
So they're evolving, they're educated, they're sophisticated.
I think so, and I think even you'll see that people are. There's a crowd. There's people in their early 20s. They're reaching more for that higher shelf stuff, and they're not having 10 drinks. They're having 3 drinks. But I think as well that can present a set of challenges, but also it presents an opportunity. That people want to be upsold a bit, and people want the provenance of something like this, where there's a story behind it. You can kind of tell it. You can sell it to people. It's not just a mass-produced product. You can kind of get behind it and say, well, actually, you have there's this taste that goes well with this, or you can kind of, not that you want to be spending your time educating people every time they go out somewhere for something. Sometimes you want to just go in and have a beer and a whiskey, but there's an element of having a product that you can kind of talk about and kind of bring people along. Actually, I like that, and it's. I think an awful lot of people who tried that, they would end up drinking it, and it's not going to replace whiskey. Someone who's an actual whiskey drinker, they're not going to say, actually, now I drink apple brandy. But I think if you were a spirit drinker in general or a whiskey drinker in general and you tried that, you would definitely buy a bottle of it, and you'd be there and you'd probably definitely over Christmas as well. Lends itself well.
Habits are definitely changing for sure.
Yeah, and it's good to see. I think overall that like I think pub culture is changing in general.
Yes, I agree.
But I don't think it needs to be a negative thing either. It can be a positive thing. It can be and people using the pub as a meeting pot and a community spot. I know there's talk about pubs outside of Dublin as well that are dying off because there's just not enough people there and rural, and it's a real shame because it has been a meeting spot. But I think there's an element of that coming back as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree.
And the amount of, I think you see that in the amount of non-alcoholic stuff that's sold now. People are going and they're having non-alcoholic beer or low alcohol level beer or cocktails or
the local pub
whatever.
will always be a very important social.
It is an important part of the community.
People,
And it did take a big hit with like the driving ban, which don't get me wrong, very pro driving ban, but it did take a hit where a lot of people
to go into it, help people get back and forward.
I'm from Munster, boys. I'm from a very rural area, and we've one pub and that we all worked in to get through college, and it was amazing. But we did see the decline of the pint drinker when the driving ban came in. But now we're seeing it because they didn't want to come and have a Coca-Cola. They didn't want to come and have.
They tried, but it just didn't. It wasn't the same.
They didn't want to sit ordering it and go,
oh gosh,
He's drinking a pint and I'm sitting here with 7 Up. That kind of way.
It's a different
However,
vibe.
now they can get their Guinness Zero, and now they can get their
and it's a nice price as well. Like Guinness Zero as well.
Absolutely.
Or you've any number of lagers that do zero. You've wines doing zero. You've whatever you want.
Gins and cocktails and all sorts.
And cocktails.
Exactly. So it's becoming more available to those who the rural experience, social experience. Sure. But when you mention the under 30s, like the Gen Z, like they just don't drink like my age group did in college and afterwards, and that can only be a good thing. From one liver to another, that can only be a good thing. But like my younger sister, she's a Gen Z, and she'll sit there and go, "Oh, I had a glass of wine when I went out for dinner, and that was fine." And I was like, "And did you have like a cocktail after that?" Or did you like, no, I just had a cup of tea and came home. And I was like, when I go out with my friends, then we'll be like, we'll have a bottle of wine between us, and then we'll have a cocktail or we'll have a gin and tonic or something. And it is just habits. It is completely
funny
different.
Enough, the last time I was in with you, Derek, in Lundy Foots, I went in and we were having a meeting and what have you, and I just
started with cocktails.
It started with cocktails, meeting/party, but it kind of so I arrived early and I was going through my notes. And I start to observe people, and I start to observe young people coming in, and they had a drink, and then they left. And I was like, "What? you know,
Where are they going?
Where's everybody? Is everybody going to the toilet? It's just like, to me, that would be your first pint, your first drink. That's the start of the night. But there is that the culture is changing, you know.
And again, only for the better, but also
Yes.
from a health point of view.
Yeah.
But also, it's coming back down to the euro sign at the end of it, you know.
There's an element of that, definitely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
expensive to go out and
stay out.
yeah,
stay
absolutely,
out, yeah.
But I think that it gives people an opportunity, though. You're going to see a different level of publican over the next 10, 15, 20 years, that those people still want a good experience, and those people still are happy to go out and spend money and spend the night in the pub. And they might not come in and have 10 or 12 points, but they'll come in and have 4 or 5 points. And but they're just looking for a more enhanced experience. And it's not just a matter of opening somewhere and putting a set of taps in and going, okay, this is a pub now and that's it kind of thing. You need to have that extra, which I think is better overall. It raises everyone's kind of game in that regard. You know?
It does, and it's, you know, it's having music on, but not music that you have to scream over. It's having toilets, but toilets that are nice, and you know, and staff,
It's a social
staff that,
experience,
and when we were in Lundy Foots that day, your staff,
they're fantastic.
They were unbelievable, and it makes me want to go back.
And it's a massive part of it, and having that that's something that I think that the VAT reduction will kind of go towards, will be retaining staff. And like, I think all staff in hospitality are underpaid, to be honest with you. Like,
you were saying that,
but it's difficult as well, because there's only a price you can go to. We can only charge so much for a burger, you can only charge so much for a bowl of soup or whatever. So it's a very delicate kind of balance to try to strike. But I think that VAT prices aren't going to come down. Menus aren't. People aren't going to start charging less.
No.
Because as well, you have to remember, the last couple of years, like, the price of everything's gone up. Like, sometimes 100, 200%. Like, you know, like it's significant increases. Like,
it surely is.
And my whole career, there's always been price increases in everything. But generally speaking, you had a price increase in one thing, and then you had a price, 6 months later, you might have another price increase somewhere else. And whereas in the space of 12 months, everything went up.
Everything across
300%,
the board.
you know, like, it was just consistent. And it was like, if you were putting something on a plate, like a beef and Guinness stew, like, the beef might have went up, and then 6 months later, the carrots might have gone up, and then the potatoes, and then they might come back down a little bit or whatever. Nothing's come back down the last couple of years. Everything's gone up.
No,
and
it's not coming down anytime soon.
Like, every aspect of everything has gone up. Like, so it's not just beforehand. You could kind of you could build that margin in, because you kind of knew these prices are going to increase eventually, which is fine. It is what it is, But there's also an element of just like every single thing going up, and it's just it becomes difficult. Yeah.
Sarah, a quick prediction for the Irish craft spirits industry for 2026 from you.
Yeah,
please.
we're in a bit of not to be too negative, we're in a bit of a tough spot at the moment across the board. I mean, in the last year alone, you've seen how many distilleries close or go into receivership or examinership or anything else, and some of them are getting saved by investment, which is absolutely amazing to see, and some of them aren't. And we closed our own doors in a Stoke distillery last September, and can't believe it's been a year. Well, it's just over a year now already, which is crazy. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still brokenhearted over it. My parents are driving around in a camper van, living their best lives, but so they're happy.
I know.
But no, I think we're going to see a little bit more hardship across the board, and I think it's going to be tough for a lot of this, especially the smaller brands who were relying on America. So when I started in the industry, America,
that was the golden
not
chance.
Even when I started, even until 2 years ago,
ago,
America was the golden goose. If you got listed in America, if you got an importer, you were sorted.
There was such excitement around America.
And now it's like, okay, we spent 5 years focusing and building and investing in America. What are we going to do? Which is why there's going to be a huge shift now to Asia. There's going to be a huge shift now to a lot of African countries actually are really opening their doors to Irish whiskey, which is really exciting.
We have a lovely article on India in there as well.
Absolutely. 100%. There's a huge amount of opportunity out there in terms of export. Unfortunately, the opportunity nationally isn't going to grow a lot in the next 12 months because of the competition and because of the costs. And until... which I don't ever foresee happening, but if we got a reduction in our alcohol tax and our alcohol duty, we would be flying. We could actually compete with the UK brands.
We need
a
little break there, don't we?
With the mass production.
Because
we
we're doing
can't right now.
So much for what we have as it is. If we got a small little break there, I mean, you're talking even cent, less than €1.
And there were breaks. There were breaks for microbreweries 10 years ago or whatever it was, when they were... there was one in every parish, and then there was a distillery in every parish. But the spirits industry has never gotten that break.
No.
And the small businesses, we need that. Hospitality desperately needed that VAT cut. And I'm delighted to see it coming in. And you asked that question earlier on, will you see it at the bill at the end of the day? I don't want to see it. I want to see it in the staff retention and in the experience and, in the growth of businesses.
Yes.
But we're not going to see it anytime soon in the alcohol industry.
I think having that reduction, that it gives a little bit more of a training budget there for staff. Like Irish hospitality has always been about that connection and being able to, like, we're known the world over for being able to go and being taken care of. And you go all over the world and there's Irish bars everywhere. And there's a reason for that is because it was famous. Irish bars are famous and Irish pubs are famous around the world for having that. Being, first of all, being taken care of, like, you know, and having that connection to people, like, and it kind of needs to go back to that. Like you're saying, they're doing about the staff in Lundy Foods, and the staff in the Murray Pub Group overall are fantastic. Like,
they are. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm super lucky the staff that I have as well. Like, I don't deal with front of house at all. I'm just back of house. Like, but like, we're super lucky in that regard that there's just some outstanding managers in the group overall, and they just have that push to kind of develop people and take that next step of that. And I think that's where that budget will go an awful lot. It has to, you know, to retain those people and kind of keep them interested and keep them wanting to work in this industry. There's easier ways to make money than working in hospitality, like, you know.
Well, I think we're all going to keep going. So to end on the most positive note, after that lovely experience, after that lovely tasting of the 80 Apple Brandy, Sarah, can you tell me where this is available to purchase?
Absolutely. So go straight to our website, tipperarydistillery.ie. We are in Celtic Whisky Shop. We are soon to be in James Fox's, and we have a couple of big multiples that we're working with at the moment. One in particular that begins with an O, so hopefully they'll have us very soon.
Very nice. Yes. I'm excited. Congratulations. Sarah Mc Avinchey, Derek Marsden, it has been just a privilege to be in conversation with you tonight.
Yeah. Same time next week, yeah.
Don't forget the Apple Brandy.
Let's do it again.
I'll bring a whiskey.
I'll bring the salad.
Thanks, folks. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We'll be chatting soon.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Good night.
Blends and Botanics in Conversation. This episode of Blends and Botanics in Conversation is brought to you by the Clearer Water Group, by the 47-0 timepiece Annecy France. If you like this episode, like and subscribe.